Hello YouTube, and how are you? Welcome back to my channel. My name's Jude, and today I'll be doing the full card predictions for UFC Fight Night Vegas 116, Sterling versus Zalal. And I guess I'll make this a thing where we check on how I did last week. I went 8 for 12 on predictions, but I thought that Jamie Lynn Horth won this fight 30-27. I have no idea how it didn't go to her. And then I also thought that Castaneda could have won this fight even with the point deduction. I thought the first was a lot closer than people are making it out to be. But I should have trusted my read on this John Giannis versus Jamie Siraj pick because I just had a feeling that John Giannis was going to spark him, and that's exactly what happened. But now we'll get into the predictions for UFC Fight Night, Sterling versus Zalal. We have 13 fights, and these were super hard to break down and predict because they're all so close and they're all so low level. This is really tricky, and a lot of these picks are very low confidence and might change later in the week. But we will see. First fight on the card, we have Talita Alencar versus Julia Pilastri, and Talita Alencar is basically solely a jiu-jitsu fighter. She is 35 years old, 5'1", with a 58-inch reach. She is 3-1 in the UFC, went to a draw in the Contender Series, lost her rematch with Stephanie Luciano, won a split decision here, beat Vanessa Demopoulos, and then beat Ariana Carnelosi. But I think Julia Pilastri is better than everybody that she's fought so far. Recently had that very nice performance at UFC Rio where she finished Karolina Kowalkiewicz in the third round, was piecing her up really for all of that fight. Before that, she lost to Lupe Godinez, but made things very interesting in the third round and clearly won that. And before that, she beat Corey McKenna. And I just think that she has a huge advantage on the feet here and that she'll be able to keep things on the feet. The odds favor Julia Pilastri much more than the community predictions do, but I do like Pilastri to win this fight, and I think that she will dominate this fight on the feet. And I could see her getting a mid to late round finish over Talita Alencar, but I think this will be probably a 29-28 decision or a 30-27 decision, just because Alencar might be able to control her for a round, but I don't think she'll be able to do it for 2 rounds. I think Julia Pilastri will be able to win 2 out of 3 rounds here, outstriking Alencar pretty comfortably on the feet. So we're going to put her by decision. I don't know why I kind of froze there, but we'll move on. Next fight on the card, we have Max Griffin versus Victor Valenzuela. And this is the first, not even the first, the last one was kind of hard to predict, but this is the first of many where it's basically flip a coin for who you think's going to win this fight. It was really hard to find any valuable tape of Victor Valenzuela. I saw this fight in the LFA where he looked good, but the competition level isn't great. And then this fight in Fury, he got hurt early, but then put the guy away in the clinch with knees. He lost on the Contender Series this past season to Michael Oliveira in a fight where he was dropped 3 times. But I think Michael Oliveira would put away Max Griffin. Even though Max Griffin's durable, I think a similar thing would happen. I'm excited to see Michael Oliveira's UFC debut, and I think it's kind of crazy that the guy that he beat on the Contender Series has not only made his UFC debut first, but also made another regional fight 3 weeks ago against a former UFC guy in Yusaku Kinoshita, where he got a second round knockout. That was kind of a long-winded way of saying that he is a fresher fighter, he's a younger fighter, but there's a lot of question marks around him. And for Max Griffin, watching tape, this fight he won the first round against Michael Morales, but we've seen drastic improvement from Michael Morales since then. This fight with Jeremiah Wells, I thought that he lost the first 2 rounds and probably should have lost this fight. He just didn't really do anything. He was very low output in this fight. Didn't do much of anything at all. This fight against Michael Chiesa, he was getting outstruck on the feet, which is not really a good look at all. Michael Chiesa dominated him from pillar to post in this fight and submitted him in the third round. And then in his most recent fight, split decision against Chris Curtis in a fight that I thought was pretty clearly 29-28 to Chris Curtis based on the second and third rounds. And Chris Curtis, another old fighter who was making his welterweight debut in this fight, and Max Griffin is 40 years old. He's 40 years old, and he is 1-3 in his last 4 fights. I just have a very hard time picking Max Griffin in this fight, and that's why I'm going to slightly lean Victor Valenzuela. I don't know if he's going to be able to put away Max Griffin, because Max Griffin has only one loss by KO or TKO in his career, and that was very, very early. But I do think that Victor Valenzuela has much higher output and won't get put away by Max Griffin. So I'm going to pick Valenzuela to win by decision in that fight. I'll try not to spend as much time on these terrible fights, but we'll keep moving on. And this fight was added to the card like last night, I believe, so I'm glad that I'm making my video today. We have Francis Marshall taking on UFC newcomer Lucas Brennan, and yeah, this fight's going to be on like 6 days' notice for both guys. Francis Marshall's coming off that win about a month ago over Eric Silva at, I think it was UFC Mexico maybe. And then before that, lost a split decision to Myron Santos that a lot of people, including myself, thought that he should have won. I was shocked when they announced that he lost this fight. Before that, split decision over Dennis Bazooka, but I thought that fight was pretty clearly Francis Marshall's. And then on the other side, we have Lucas Brennan, who's coming off a win on the regional scene over Joshua Weems. But then this loss to Mauricio Gomez doesn't really impress me at all, because Mauricio Gomez is someone that got knocked out in 2 minutes by Dakota Hope. And I think that Francis Marshall is a better fighter than Dakota Hope and Mauricio Gomez. So I think this one's pretty straightforward. I don't know what the UFC is doing by continuously bringing in guys like Lucas Brennan on very short notice to fight on these cards, but it hasn't really paid out for him at all, and I think that Francis Marshall's going to get another finish in this fight. I'm going to pick Francis Marshall to get his own submission in this fight in probably the second round. I think he's going to beat up Lucas Brennan on the feet and kind of break him and submit him. Next fight on the card, we have Jafel Filio taking on Cody Durden. And Cody Durden took this fight on about 6 days' notice and is on a 4-fight losing streak. I don't need to spend hardly any time on this. It was originally Jafel Filio versus Lucas Hocha, which would have been a much more interesting matchup to break down. But I think this one's pretty straightforward. I think that Jafel Filio has nasty jiu-jitsu. I think that he won't be severely outmatched here on the feet. I think early, of course, Cody Durden possesses a lot of damage, but his cardio is really, really bad. And at this point in his career, at least, his cardio has been really, really bad in his past couple of fights. And he's taken this fight on 6 days' notice. I'm going to pick Jafel Filio to win this fight by submission in the very first round. I just think that he'll kind of dominate Cody Durden here. I think he'll get him down. I think there is so many ways that Jafel Filio can win this fight, but the most likely will be a rear naked choke. And I think that's going to be what he gets in the first round here against Cody Durden. Next fight on the card, we have Mayra Bueno Silva taking on Michelle Montag. I'm not sure if it's Montag or Montague, but does it really matter? Michelle Montag is 7-0 in her pro career. She was fighting in the PFL before coming over to the UFC and winning her debut against Luana Carolina in a fight where she was able to take her down and control her, but not find a finish. And then on the other side, we have Mara Silva, who is 0-4-1 in her last 5 fights. She originally beat Holly Holm, but this fight got overturned because I think she popped for like Adderall or something close to that. Don't quote me. But then since then, she's lost 4 fights in a row. She lost to Cavalcanti in her most recent fight. She lost to Jasmine Jasudavicius. And I think this is a similar matchup to the Jasmine Jasudavicius fight. I think Michelle Montiag is one of my most confident predictions, or one of my most confident picks on the whole card. I think that she's going to be able to take down Mara Silva, get on her back, and find the submission in this fight. Round 1 or round 2, I'm having a hard time picking that, but I'll go round 2 for this. I just have a feeling for some reason. I can't really tell you. But I'm going to pick Michelle Montague to win this fight by submission or by dominant decision. I think she's going to hold the advantage on the ground and control Mara Silva for pretty much the whole fight, or for as long as it lasts. All right, next prelim on the card, we have Cedricus Dumas fighting against Jackson McVeigh. And I hate how much time I spent predicting this fight. Yeah, this was a really rough one to watch tape for because both of them have looked so unimpressive. The only win for Cedricus Dumas in his last 5 fights was against Dennis Tululin, and I watched this fight today and it wasn't impressive. But besides that, he lost to Nursultan Ruziboyev in a fight where he got eye-poked before the finish, but he also still kind of just quit. And then he quit here against Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. He was covering up. The shots weren't really connecting, but he wasn't trying to move at all. This fight, I'm pretty sure it was him that got kicked in the groin here against Zach Reese. We didn't really get to see any of how that fight played out. It would have been really helpful if we did, because that was Jackson McVeigh's most recent fight. And then besides that, he got submitted by Dante Johnson. And this is brutal. This is really brutal to make a pick for. I don't think either of them are good enough to be a minus 200 favorite against really anyone in the UFC. I honestly think that even the winner of this fight could get cut. And this, no disrespect to either of these guys. I just don't really think either of them fit in very well here. And I'm kind of stalling because this is really hard. I just really don't like Jackson McVeigh's defense at all. And we saw after the first round with Zachary Reese that his takedown defense completely disappeared, and it seemed like he had completely gassed. I am going to pick Dumas in this fight, but if Jackson McVeigh just smokes him and knocks him out or submits him in the first round, I would not be surprised at all. And I can't even really be upset whatever way this fight goes. But I just see Cedric Dumas out-grappling him in the second and third round. But he's not really dangerous enough on the ground for me to pick him to win by submission here. I could see a late finish. I just think McVeigh will gas really bad, so I will pick Dumas to get a late finish in the third round, probably ground and pound. But yeah, that'll do it for that one. I don't even want to talk about that fight anymore, and I don't want to talk about this next one either. We have Rodolfo Vieira fighting Eric Meconico, and Eric Meconico should be 0-3 in the UFC. I thought he lost this fight to Cody Brundage, but it is what it is. Besides that, he lost on short notice to Nursultan Ruziboyev, and then he lost to Baysanger Susurkayev in a fight where he survived a lot longer than anybody thought that he would. But in this fight with Cody Brundage, he was taken down 3 times, and Brundage wasn't able to control him for too long or do any crazy damage on the ground or get him in any real submission attempts, but Brundage and Rodolfo Vieira aren't the same. I can just see Eric McConico keeping this fight on the feet and outstriking Rodolfo Vieira for 3 rounds. But Rodolfo Vieira is just a very inconsistent fighter because he lost here to Andre Petrosky, who I don't think has really anything much to offer on the feet. But then he pitched like a complete shutout here against Tresean Gore on the feet. He failed 13 takedowns in this fight against Tresean Gore and won 30-27. So that was weird. He hasn't gotten a submission in 2 years, and that was against Armen Petrosyan. Before that, he was getting smoked by Cody Brundage, and then Brundage jumped a guillotine, and Vieira submitted him. So I'm having a really hard time with this one, and part of me really wants to pick Eric McConico, and this is a pick that I might switch later in the week. Nobody ever really interacts with my community posts, but if I do end up switching the picks, I'll just drop it there. I understand that the last card and this card probably won't do very well because there's so little name value and people won't really want to watch, but I'm going to keep making videos regardless just because I like it. Got off track there, but you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna pick Eric McConico to win this fight by decision. I just don't really think that Vieira is gonna be able to submit him. And after halfway through the second round, I don't think McConico will have very much to worry about at all. I think McConico has a 4-inch reach advantage. They're the same height. McConico hasn't really shown much in the UFC, but I think Vieira is on a downward trajectory here in his career, so I'm going to pick McConico as a plus 205 underdog. I might switch that. It's not that's a coin flip fight again. It's a pick I have very low confidence in. First fight on the main card, we have Marcus Buchecha fighting against Ryan Spann. And last fight for Marcus Buchecha was a draw against Kennedy Nzechukwu because I think he had a point deducted here. Before that, lost his debut to Martin Budai. And then before that, he was fighting in one championship. On the other side, we have Ryan Spann. This will be his third appearance at heavyweight. His debut at heavyweight, he lost to Waldo Cortez Acosta, but early in that fight, he was doing pretty good, and now we know how good that Waldo Cortez Acosta is. And then after that, he was able to dominate Lucas Dresky and submit him in the first round with his guillotine. I like Superman in this fight. I just I don't like what Marcus Buchecha has to offer here at all, really. I think that Ryan Spann is so much more dangerous on the feet. I think Ryan Spann does have a pretty solid ground game, despite him losing by submission quite a few times in his career. I just think Ryan Spann is so much more physical and so much more powerful. Ryan Spann has one shot, knockout power in his hands, and I see him finishing this fight pretty early. I think it's going to get finished in the first round, but I can see a knockout or I can see him hurting Buchecha and then getting his guillotine. Even though Buchecha is such like a highly credentialed jiu-jitsu guy, you can't punch people in jiu-jitsu. And I think if Ryan Spann hurts him, this could be a club and sub where we see Ryan Spann get his guillotine. I'm just going to pick him by knockout though, because I don't know if Ryan Spann will want to engage with that. All right, next fight on the main card, we have Montel Jackson fighting Ione Barcelos, and Montel Jackson is coming off that loss, split decision against Davison Figueiredo, where I could have seen that fight going to him, but his low output was his own detriment there, and yeah, he can really only be mad at himself for that one. This win over Daniel Marcos was pretty good. Daniel Marcos undefeated at the time. And before that, he smoked him on Blackshear. 18 seconds, knocked him out cold with a straight left. And Raoni Barcelos is on a really good streak right now. Ever since losing to Kyler Phillips, he's on a 4-fight win streak that consists of Christian Quinones. He was losing this fight before he came back in the third round. But Peyton Talbot win was very impressive. Nobody really saw that coming. And he was able to out-wrestle and just beat Peyton Talbot all around. After that, he beat Cody Garbrandt 29-28, and then he was able to outstrike Ricky Simone. This is another really close fight that I was having a hard time making a pick for. I just think that Montel Jackson hits so much harder, and if he doesn't hold back as much as he did in that last fight against Figueiredo, that he'll be able to hurt Raoni Barcelos and potentially finish him. He has almost a 9-inch reach advantage in this fight. It's about 8.5 reach advantage, and then a 3-inch height advantage. Jackson is a good wrestler, and if Raoni Barcelos isn't able to take him down, I think that Montel Jackson outstrikes him. And I just hope that Montel Jackson does not get held up against the cage here. I can see Montel Jackson knocking him out, but I'm not going to pick that. I'm going to pick Montel Jackson to win by decision unanimously. I like Montel Jackson in this fight, even though a lot of people don't. Our next fight on the card, we have Davy Grant fighting Adrian Luna Martinetti. And this is back-to-back weeks. Last week, Mark Vilognin made his debut. This week, it is Adrian Luna Martinetti's turn. And he's fighting against dangerous Davy Grant, the craftiest fighter on the roster. Davy Grant's 40 years old. They're the same height, and Martinetti has a 2-inch reach advantage in this fight. Martinetti's making his debut, and then Davy Grant is coming off that loss against Charles Jourdain, where he got hit with that flying knee and then submitted with the guillotine. Before that, he was able to beat Damon Blackshear. Before that, he was able to beat Ramon Taveras, in part because Taveras was so low output in this fight. And I thought he won this fight against Daniel Marcos, but he's beating these guys because they're low output on the feet. And if there's one thing that Adrian Luna Martinetti isn't, it's low output on the feet. I think he landed something like 170 strikes against Mark Vilognin in their Dana White's Contender Series fight, was able to put the pressure on in rounds 2 and 3 and beat him. He was able to open up nasty cuts all over the face of Mark Vilognin, and Davy Grant does have a face that tends to cut quite a bit. I am going to pick Adrian Luna Martinetti to win this fight by decision. I really do like Davy Grant here, and I was initially going to pick Davy Grant, but there just gets to a certain point in your career, especially at this low weight class. He's 40 years old at bantamweight, and I just like Adrian Luna Martinetti's output. I think he's going to put constant pressure on Davy Grant, and I don't see Davy Grant putting him away. So I'm going to pick Luna Martinetti to win this fight 29-28, or yeah, I'm going to say 29-28 decision for Adrian Luna Martinetti. Our featured fight on the card, we have Rafa Garcia fighting against Alexander Hernandez. And this one's actually pretty straightforward to me. I haven't been super impressed by Rafa Garcia in the UFC. If we look at his last 3 fights, he got dominated here by Grant Dawson. After that, this fight against Vince Pichel was way too close. I remember watching this fight, and he barely separated himself from Vince Pichel in this fight. And then this most recent one, sure, he beat Jared Gordon, but Jared Gordon got hit by a car, I think, less than 24 hours before this fight happened, and Jared Gordon still took him to the 3rd round and was giving Rafa Garcia honestly all he could handle in this fight. But he was able to get the win there, And on the other side, we have Alexander Hernandez, who is on a 4-fight win streak since moving back up to lightweight. He beat Austin Hubbard, he beat Kurt Holobaugh, he knocked out Chase Hooper, and then most recently, and perhaps most impressively, he knocked out Diego Ferreira. And I think that Diego Ferreira is a very similar fighter to Rafa Garcia. Just think he's a little bit better, honestly. And I think that Hernandez has the power to put him away. And I think that he will. I'm sorry, I had loose skin hanging from my lip. Please ignore that. But yeah, I am going to pick Alexander Hernandez to find the knockout shot here on Rafa Garcia in the second round. I just think he's a lot better on the feet. And Rafa Garcia may try to wrestle here. I don't think it'll work very well. And I think Hernandez will eventually find the shot that puts him away. I'm going to pick him by round 2 knockout. I can just see him getting a knockout here. Our co-main event on the card, we have Norma Dumont fighting against Jocelyn Edwards. And I believe this is short notice for Jocelyn Edwards because it was originally supposed to be Dumont versus Yana Santos. But Edwards is stepping in here on short notice, looking to scalp a very high ranking here at women's bantamweight. Norma Dumont is coming off this fight against Ketlin Vieira, which was very close. I thought she could have potentially lost this fight, but the judges did give it to her. Before that, she dominated Irene Aldana at the Sphere. And then those are really the only 2 fights that matter to me, because before that, Jermaine Durandamy, Chelsea Chandler, Carol Hossa. If there's one thing I'm very unimpressed by Norma Dumont, is that she doesn't have a single finish in the UFC. She's beaten all the competition by decision, even the lowest of low level, like Chelsea Chandler. But on the other side, we have Jocelyn Edwards, who's on a 4-fight win streak here after this loss to Eileen Perez. She was really low output in this fight against Eileen Perez and actually got dropped with a spinning back fist here. But then she was able to submit Tamiris Vidal late in this fight where she missed weight. She was able to knock out Chelsea Chandler early in the first round. Same thing here with Priscilla Cachoeira, but Priscilla Cachoeira was so defensively irresponsible here. She just had her chin straight up in the air, just begging to get knocked out, and that's what happened. And then here against Nora Cornell, it wasn't looking very good for her. She lost the first round, I thought, against Nora Cornell, and then the second round, she was able to slam her and I think break Nora Cornell's shoulder. And then after that, she was able to hop on the back and submit her. But I don't think that she will be able to out-grapple Norma Dumont here. I think Ketlin Vieira is a much better grappler than probably both Eileen Perez and Nora Cornell, I know for sure. But I am going to pick Norma Dumont here to win by decision. I think that she'll keep this on the feet and be able to outstrike Jocelyn Edwards. I think that she will attack the legs of Jocelyn Edwards, be able to immobilize her a little bit, and kind of be able to pick her apart on the feet. I have her winning this one by unanimous decision because she's incapable of getting a finish in the octagon. And then our main event on the card, we have Aljamain Sterling fighting against Youssef Zalal. And once again, we have a fight that I think is very hard to predict. You might disagree, and you might disagree with my pick in general for this fight. But I was watching tape, of course, but watched this fight against Jack Shore, and Jack Shore was able to find him and take him down twice in this fight while it was in the first round. And then this fight against Calvin Kattar, he did not take down Calvin Kattar at all. He didn't really want to engage with Calvin Kattar. He was just kind of picking apart on the outside. I thought that Sterling's performance against Kattar was much better and much more decisive. And then after that, he submitted Josh Emmett quickly with an armbar. But this is 40-year-old Josh Emmett, who has never had very good jiu-jitsu defense. Josh Emmett got submitted by Yair Rodriguez. And on the other side, we have Aljamain Sterling, who, since moving up to featherweight, beat Calvin Kattar in a fight where he had 8 takedowns, pitched a shutout, won all 3 rounds, and Calvin Kattar really couldn't do anything in this fight. He lost a very close fight to Movsar Evloev after that, where it was pretty much just a grappling match. Pretty much all of this fight was on the ground, and it was highly competitive, but Sterling just didn't throw enough on the ground. It was just kind of, he was hoping to control Evloev, it felt. Then after that, this fight shouldn't have even happened because Brian Ortega, collapsed, I think, and missed weight by 8 pounds, and they moved it to catch weight at 153 on the Walker versus Zhang card. And Aljamain Sterling beat him 50-45. He didn't want to engage with Ortega on the ground for the first 3 rounds, but then he took him down in round 4 and round 5. He won all the rounds here. I just think that Sterling can lean on his experience here. I think that pretty soon Aljamain Sterling will start to meet his match here. I think if he gets a title shot after this, he'll lose, regardless of who it is. But he'll definitely lose to Volkanovski. But I do slightly lean him here in this fight against Yusuf Zalal. I just think that Sterling matches up really well here against Yusuf Zalal. I think that he'll be able to keep it close on the feet, even though Yusuf Zalal is very hard to find on the feet. I think that Sterling will just not stop trying to take him down, and he will follow him. The one thing I am worried about is Aljamain Sterling getting caught with a knee here by Yusuf Zalal, but that's really about it, because I don't think Yusuf Zalal can finish Aljamain Sterling on the ground, but I also don't really think that Sterling can finish Zalal on the ground. I think this fight's going to be a close decision. I just am going to lean Aljamain Sterling based on his experience. I think that this fight will be relatively close on the feet, and that Sterling will be able to take him down and bank 3 rounds in this fight. But I won't be surprised at all if Yusuf Zalal wins. I think it'd probably be better for the division if Yusuf Zalal wins. But I'm going to slightly lean towards the former bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling. I'm gonna lean there for that one. And that's it. So we'll go through the quick picks. I don't know if this really matters, but I do it anyways. Picking Pilastri by decision, Victor Valenzuela by decision, Francis Marshall to win by sub, Jafel Filio to win by sub, Michelle Montag to win by sub. We have 3 subs in a row here, which would be kind of crazy. Dumas to win by late stoppage, Mecanico to win by decision, Ryan Spann, early knockout. I can see a knockout here for Montel Jackson, but I'm going with the decision. Same thing here in this Luna Martinetti fight. I'm going to pick him to win by decision. I'm going to pick Hernandez to knock out Rafa Garcia in the 2nd round, Norma Dumont to win by unanimous decision, and Aljamain Sterling to win by close, potentially 48-47 decision. But those are my picks for UFC Fight Night, Vegas 116, Sterling versus Zalal. Thank you to anybody who made it this far in the video. Thank you to anybody who likes my videos, anybody who comments on my videos. I really appreciate all of you. I'm going to keep doing this, even though it seems like I have only started to do worse since I made these videos, but the cards have also been really tricky to predict, so I'm going to give myself a little bit of slack. Still in the top 20 on Tapology for the last 10 UFC events, but that'll do it for today. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.